Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff podcast, early pre-show edition. My name is David,
Hello there, this is General Kenobi.
and once again, it is the countdown to Chapter 18, Episode 2, and a lot of people have watched the Mandalorian Chapter 18, Episode 2 at the premiere, and there's been some screeners been sent out to people, and apparently, what we've all heard is that this is kind of a continuation of chapter 17,
Right.
and it's really really good. Pretty much everyone that's seen this episode that's about to premiere tonight for the Mandalorian is saying that it's a really great episode. I'm not sure if it's an all-time episode. I haven't heard anyone use those words, but I think it's something that we should really be excited for. And Disney, right before we came on, they dropped a promo trailer slash commercial type thing on YouTube.
Ooh.
Have you seen it?
No, actually.
Yeah, there are some scenes in there that I don't know. It's kind of like on the border. It's like, do we want to talk about them? Do we not talk about them? Because this is the pre-show, and I think if you have avoided that stuff this
Yeah,
late
right.
in the game, you might not want to talk about them. But it seems like it's a lot of stuff that we've seen in the trailer,
Okay.
which is pretty exciting, I think, because it seems like we get that thing where we get the trailer and then all the footage is all the stuff that's front loaded from the beginning of the season, and we get to look forward to all new stuff that we've never seen before. So it
Nice.
looks like that's
Yeah.
what they're doing. So what are your thoughts and hopes for chapter 17 or chapter 18?
Well, I've been pretty vocal about what chapter 17 was for me, and like I said before, it was for me. It was missing a little bit of that wow factor, right? And you're right. From everything that I've read or heard, this second episode of this third season brings on the heat, right? So I'm very much looking forward to it. What I personally would like to see is let's further the story a little bit more. I wouldn't call it crazy if we already see Mandalore in this episode. Because remember, this is a short season, right? Well, okay, it's a standard size season for Mando, but overall it's kind of short, right? We only got 8 episodes. So we're down to 7 remaining. And I would love to start seeing some of the hurdles, right, that he has to overcome. Because if you think about it, last episode, they post, the hurdles, but we sort of already know those were coming, right? From Book of Boba Fett episodes and from the trailers, right? We knew that he has to go to Mandalore. He's gonna need help, all of that stuff, right? So I didn't really feel that we pushed that we didn't really further the story last episode. So I'm hoping that we move along on this one finally.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's all about Mandalore, I believe, this season. It's all about the struggle with the dark saber. We didn't get even a shot, I don't think, of the dark saber
We did
in the
not,
first episode,
which I thought
which was
was a
kind
little
of
bit
interesting.
weird, no? Because she's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, by the way, still got that thing?" And he's like, "Yep, but I'm not gonna show it to you. It's right here on my belt, technically." Which I mean, I'm assuming, but
Yeah.
no, you don't get to see it. I was like, "Wow,
Yeah, you didn't even
okay,
see it like dangling or like
no,
where does he keep it?
no, you don't exactly." Yeah, exactly. I was like, "Is
Yeah.
it on the on the floating crib for for Grogu?" It's like, "You keep that safe."
Yeah. Yeah. So our patron supporter, our great patron supporter, Maka Tautala is in the chat here on
Hey, what's
YouTube.
going on, Micah?
What is up? Also, Ryan from Alamo City Movie Talk is in here. He
Hey,
said he's
hey.
editing a video for Scream 6 right now.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, I'm hoping to see that this weekend at some point. I know our families are pretty big. Not me specifically, but my wife and kids are big time on the Scream franchise.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
that's
like in the
awesome.
'90s. I know I'm old, but
Hey,
yeah, that was an awesome like start of a new franchise. But so Makan here says, I wouldn't be surprised if we make a pit stop at certain desert planet this week.
hey, you never know, right? He might need a back to
We're going to
tank,
Tatooine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back to tank, soak for a little flashback action. I'm down.
Yeah, I mean the Tatooine takes so many like digs and shots now from I want to say the younger generation, but man, I love it when we go to Tatooine. I just
Yeah,
absolutely, I
same
mean,
here.
it brings back it for me personally. It brings us back to Star Wars,
Yes.
and
Yep.
to see R5D4
Yeah.
brought back into kind of a prominent role. It seems like because we've all seen the trailer where he gets loaded up and the
Yeah.
bubbles replaced with R5D4.
Yes.
That's that's an incredible thing. And if you've read A Certain Point of View, there's a really nice chapter in that book that details what was going on in the circuits of R5D4. And
Ah.
when you read that chapter, it puts that droid in a in completely different light. And I know there was comics and stuff too that addressed him, and it's pretty interesting to see what kind of backstory they decided to give him. And of course, we had that old original trilogy for so many years,
Yeah.
and we watched it, and we concentrated on certain things. And I think R5D4 was one of those things we concentrated on as like a cool, like different style astromech droid that for some reason he had his motivator popped on the back.
Yeah.
But
That motivator.
I'm excited to see what they do with them, and just that bringing back of the original trilogy stuff into the
Absolutely.
Mandalorian, super cool. And of course, the Mandalorian happens after the original trilogy.
Yes. Which
So
makes sense, right? So it's
yeah,
organic.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Before we go any further, though, I do want to thank all of our patrons, our top tier patrons, starting with our purple tier: Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Sean Greathouse, and Zach Netzel. On the red tier, we have Fenrir526, Maya Morris, and Texas Vader 76. On the black tier, we have Maka Talatala, who's in the chat right there. You see his comment, Nathan Shank, Evan Opaker, and Liam McCallion. So, as a podcast, it's going to be myself, Colin, and Josh will be traveling to London here in less than a month, and we will be hopefully meeting Evan and Liam in the UK, along with maybe a couple other people. But I know we've been in direct contact with Evan and Liam, and it's going to be crazy, man. Those guys have been supporting us for such a long time, and it's it's always crazy to meet up with people that have listened to you talk
Right.
about Star Wars,
Yeah.
and it'll be our 5th anniversary in April for the
Crazy.
show. And yeah, the very first host we had would show us specifically where people were listening to us all over the world.
Okay.
And yeah, we were just astounded with all the spots in the world people were actually listening to us at.
That's so awesome.
And Norway was actually a pretty big spot. Norway, Australia,
Wow.
and Canada. It was interesting. The UK as well. And yeah, so everyone that kind of listens to us, if you have a chance to go to Celebration, we will be there. We're going to be there all 4 days. I think Colin and Josh are going to be there an extra day. I think
Nice.
Colin mentioned something about maybe going to Paris for Disneyland or something. So I
Wow.
don't know. So I'm looking at the chat here. And Micah has another comment. As a Native American, I found a sort of representation of Star Wars via the Tusken Raiders. Now, oddly enough, I totally agree with that
I see that.
observation with
Yeah.
the Tuscans because they seem like they are the natives to that land,
Yeah.
and I think George Lucas really intended them to be kind of that parallel, and they weren't very well looked upon in the original trilogy, and they were called like
Yeah.
savages and stuff like that. But
Exactly.
I mean that parallels the Native Americans.
I was gonna say,
And
but that kind of plays into that comment too, right? I mean,
yeah,
just they had a really bad rep, but turns out they're they're the ones who actually got displaced and got their planet taken over, right? Which again, very much like the Native Americans, right, with their
yeah,
lands. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a great parallel. Actually, it's a great comparison right there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the Book of Boba Fett did a really great job
Yeah,
showing the relationship between the Tuscans and and the Sands of Tatooine.
yeah,
And it's so funny because I think about Tatooine, and as a little kid, I always dreamt of just going back there and exploring it more. And we got that exploration in the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett.
yep,
And that's one really cool, I think, character features of Din Djarin is that he could communicate with them. He uses ASL, I believe.
yeah.
And Troy Kotzer, the guy that won the Academy Award, um, I'm forgetting the name of the film he won it for, but he's an Academy Award winning actor now for his acting role, and he uses ASL, I believe. Yeah, he is deaf, and I think he kind of went everywhere for a moment, and I think the last place I saw him, he was doing ASL for the national anthem at the Super Bowl. He was there.
Crazy.
So
That's
yeah, that
awesome.
was pretty cool. And hopefully they do bring him back. And
Yeah,
hopefully we do see more of that interaction between Din and the Tuscans. And hopefully we see it in a couple hours.
right. Yeah, there you go.
And yeah, Maka, we bumped into each other. Well, actually, I think I was at a food truck last year at Anaheim. I wasn't getting food. I actually ran into the Cantina cast. I noticed
Oh, no
them.
way. Yeah,
Anytime I notice someone, I'll approach them because it's like I might not see them for the rest of the trip. So
exactly. Yeah.
I go up to everyone and
Yeah, man. There's so many
yeah.
people out there that you got to do it. You cannot count on bumping into them again.
Yeah, Mecca says it was great bumping into you at Anaheim. I saw Colin and Brooke too, but I was late for Tamir Morrison autographs. So I couldn't chit chat with them. But yeah, it was super cool, and that's the great thing about Celebration. It's you kind of regroup, and the people that you see online, the people that you're friends with on Facebook.
Yes.
It's yeah, this podcast is going to be commercial for Celebration tonight because there's a lot of Celebration stuff that dropped today.
Yeah, there is.
A lot of news, some unfortunate news, some
Yeah.
worrisome news, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah. So yeah, let's talk about some of that news here. I'll bring it up. So one of the big things that dropped today, and this is being reported on by Variety, and it's kind of puzzling. And when I saw it at first, I was like, "Wait a minute!" I kind of had to reread it a couple times because
Yeah.
apparently there's a big shakeup. Kevin Feige and Patty Jenkins movies shelved, which the Kevin Feige part of that is a complete shocker, but the
Yeah.
Patty
Oh
Jenkins
yeah.
part is not
Yeah, I was
because
gonna say.
yeah, I mean it felt like she was like in the Ryan Johnson realm of things where it was talked about, but it's not an active development and probably not going to happen. But see, the Kevin Feige part of it, it's like I never thought initially that he was going to be able to do anything Star Wars centric because he's so busy.
Yeah.
He's so busy with the MCU. He's churning out movies left and right. We all know if you listen to the podcast, we've detailed his Hasbro HasLab adventure. He bought
Yeah.
he bought the remaining, I think, 250 katanas to get that HasLab secured and in production.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is very strange, very weird. But of course, I thought the announcement for Feige doing a film was strange and weird. But we did get some more traction on the Feige thing because Michael Waldron, one of the writers, the writer of Loki, who has been tapped to do several other things. I think he's doing an Avengers film as well.
Yeah.
Was tapped to write the Star Wars project for Kevin Feige that he's executive producing, and I guess that's on the shelf. And I've seen a lot of people today talk about the fact that it's been canceled. It's not canceled. That's not the verbiage they're using. They're saying
Right.
shelf, so it possibly may be back on the menu. And then the
Yeah.
other crazy portion of this is Taika Waititi looking to star in his own film. It's like,
Yeah.
what is that?
I know. With the never before seen in Star Wars Natalie Portman. Hopefully, if you can convince her. Yeah, but that's kind of crazy. Show about to our second episode tonight.
So we actually started early because I think I'm going to have multiple guests throughout the night. So we might go for 4 hours or 3 hours, whatever it
There you
is.
go.
And then we'll do a post show after The Mandalorian to answer a half work shaman's
Right.
question in YouTube. Thanks for the question, though.
So yeah, I thought the Patty Jenkins stuff was pretty much a done deal a few months ago, right? When if I remember correctly, the last thing we heard about it was that they pulled the movie from their schedule, right? From the slot that they had already sort of procured. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, again, that's not too surprising. Like you said, though, it does say shelved. So I'm kind of gathering as let's wait and see how the 2025 movie does, and then we'll reconvene and see if we keep going with all these different projects. Um, I agree on the Kevin Feige. I mean, I don't know how that man does it if he was still planning to do a Star Wars movie. God, I mean, he literally cannot sleep. I mean, it's too much wasted time for him. But yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I would love to see what he could do with it, obviously,
Yeah.
and I think we all kind of are very curious on that. But yeah, I don't know that it was the right time anyway. I mean, the we all know sort of how the MCU is doing right now, and it kind of feels like they need a little bit more attention right now to to kind of get themselves out of this little slump. So yeah, Taika Waititi, man, is hey, what's going on, Mary?
Yeah. Super shocking news today. Taika Waititi possibly starring in his own film. I think
Yeah,
Taika Waititi's stock took a tremendous hit after Thor: Love and Thunder because
agreed.
before that it felt like he could do no wrong.
I was gonna say, yeah,
And then when we got that movie, I didn't think it was as bad as the criticism and all the fans kind of gave it. Um, but I mean, it wasn't Thor Ragnarok. I mean
no,
that's one of the most beloved MCU films right there outside of the
yes,
Avengers films.
I
And then of
agree.
course he won for best screenplay for Jojo Rabbit, and that just kind of showed his talent. But it felt like Taika Waititi was another one of those that was just spread a little bit too thin because he's got multiple TV shows, he's got film projects going
Yeah,
on, and it's like, how is he going to fit in a Star Wars? And
yeah,
that's the thing that I thought with Ryan Johnson, aside from all the baggage he has, he started a whole Knives Out franchise, and
yeah,
then Netflix gave him $100 million to just do Knives Out exclusively with Netflix.
yeah,
And then he started his own production company on top of that. And he also said before that he was going to do a Star Wars trilogy, new characters from scratch, new planets. That's a whole like full plate and a half
yeah.
worth of
No,
work right there, because that right there is almost impossible to do, and it's even more impossible to get it done and have the fans just embrace it. I mean, and
yeah,
that's
no kidding.
besides all the baggage from the Last Jedi. So it's weird timing. I hope it doesn't affect the whole new film announcement that we're going to get at Celebration,
Right.
at the Lucasfilm. We're guessing the Lucasfilm panel that's going to drop on Friday at
Yeah.
11 a.m. I believe London time.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of weird news, and I think all of our anticipation is the fact that Damon Lindelof is going to talk about his new film for 2025, but it might be the Taika film now for 2025.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm like, okay, well, which horse are we betting on at this point? Uh, I don't know. It's definitely gonna be interesting. This last few weeks leading up to Celebration, I think we're just gonna keep getting, more and more news. I will say that I thought they were gonna pause or hold off on any like movie related news until Celebration, right? I thought
Yeah,
that was gonna be the opening up the floodgates about specifically about the movies, right? I thought, okay, you know what, guys, you are getting a new movie 2025, but we're gonna put a pause button on this guys, and this guys, right? Like I thought they were gonna sort of communicate that, but it seems like we started early, and yeah, kind
yeah,
of strange news for sure. But now I'm kind of looking forward to that announcement even more. I mean, we
yeah,
already dropped some of the runner-ups, so let's see who
yeah.
it is.
So, Halfwork Shaman on YouTube chat, he's asking, is the show about to air the second episode tonight? So, our show, yeah, we'll continue throughout the night. We might take a break and then re-air at midnight Central Time if you're in Central Time. Um, yeah, Mob Rules, who is one of our patrons, he says late tonight, early morning Wednesday. I think he's talking about the actual Mandalorian Chapter 18.
Yeah,
And Mob Rules ask, could Kevin be too busy? I think Kevin
I
Feige is extremely busy.
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that, I mean, I think that's what he's always wanted. And of course, there's a lot of material that he can pull from the comics to make into the MCU, which is
Yeah,
something different. And he can change things around. And that kind of leads me to thinking about what Star Wars has. Star Wars has a huge catalog of expanded universe legacy stuff that they could just take that and make that into films. They don't have
honestly.
to do it panel for panel, word for word, but I mean, if they take the gist of it, I mean that's material right there.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
if we get a movie in 2025, I guess it's a big if, which is crazy to say for Star Wars. I mean, are we going to get, I mean, the Taika film or the Damon film, you know?
Right.
It's crazy that it's going to be a 6-year span if we do get a 2025 film.
Yeah. Since the last one, I agree.
It, and you look at the MCU with Kevin Feige, they're dropping like a film like every quarter at least.
Yeah.
Film or a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. So they keep moving forward, right? At least,
Yeah.
and they're even pulling movies ahead, right? Like Ant-Man was this year. I don't
Yeah.
think that was. I think that was scheduled to go out on the summer, and they're like, you know what? No, we got to kick off the year. So
Yeah. So Mob Rules in on YouTube says with the next Avengers movies. So it's not just the next Avengers movies; it's all the other
it's
films
yeah, I
plus
was
the
gonna say
TV
plus the
shows,
TV shows, yeah. And we all
which
know.
is
I don't know if you saw that today, but in the Daredevil show, right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
supposedly, John Berthal is coming back as Punisher, which I
yes,
think is absolutely the right move. First of all, because I love that character, the way he portrayed it. But all I'm just gonna say is now he's got to juggle that. How does he continue slash differentiate himself from the Netflix shows, right? The
yeah,
Marvel Netflix. So it's
yeah,
he's got he's got his plate, way full. That's what I'm trying to get at. He's
yeah,
got plenty of work to do. So yeah, I don't see him coming near Star Wars for the next few years at least. I
yeah,
mean, the MCU is going nowhere. For better or for worse. So I don't know at what point he'll even have time, right? But
yeah. When Bob Iger came back, he talked about maybe easing up on
yeah,
releases, and I think he was talking more about the MCU than Star Wars. Star Wars, I think we need to push
I
the foot
I
on
was
the
gonna say I
gas a
think
little
we
bit
need to
more.
yeah, exactly. We need to shift back into gear because yeah, no man, like you said, if we get a 2025 release, that's 6 years. I mean, what was it between episode 3 and episode 7, right? There was 10 years, but look at everything that happened, right? In those 10 years. I mean, Lucas said he was done flat out. Then, negotiations started for the longest time. Then it almost didn't happen. All of that stuff, right? So what I'm trying to say is Star Wars like completely changed, in those 10 years, right? But that's, this is still under Disney. This is still under the same people, and to have a 6-year gap without a movie, it does not make sense at all.
Yeah, it's a shame, man. I mean, Star Wars. I had a Discord discussion today with some people on a Discord channel where I said it's a shame that Star Wars doesn't have at least one film every single year, and someone said, "Well, that's where the problem started." But I don't necessarily think that's true because if you plan something out, if you take your time with it, if you don't
Yeah,
rush it,
yeah,
and if you have multiple productions happening simultaneously, you could do that. You could have kind of like a queue of movies
yeah,
ready to go, and you can perfect them and you can make them great and just keep that thing rolling. But Disney was very, very. I mean, there's two sides of that coin. When 2015 hit, we were going to get the next Star Wars film. I think you had to some ways be in a type of rush to get those out because you wanted to get the big three in
Yeah.
those films. And of course, unfortunately, tragically, we lost Carrie Fisher,
Right.
and we essentially waited too long to get those movies done. But of course, George Lucas hadn't made that decision yet to sell. And I talked about this on Patreon Daily, on Patreon with James about going down this rabbit hole with Pablo Hidalgo. And he did an interview. I forgot what outlet it was, but he talked about the fact that right before the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney, Lucasfilm was in dire straits. And what that means, I'm not quite sure, but it almost felt like he was insinuating that Lucasfilm should have. The only way Lucasfilm could just keep on going was maybe to sell,
Yeah.
because Lucasfilm, we all know, is responsible for LucasArts, and I'm not quite sure if Skywalker Sound is directly attached to it or if that's its like
Under
own
them.
entity.
Right.
But all these other effects houses have been opening up. Weta being one of the more
Sure.
predominant
Oh yeah.
effects houses in New Zealand after the success of the Lord of the Rings, and
Right.
they showed what they could do. And James Cameron is filming all his Avatar films down there, and other companies out there. I mean, there's not a lot, but I mean, Lucasfilm, I think, and ILM and Skywalker. I think Skywalker Sound was still the most active because I think most big time Hollywood films
Yeah, they still go for
get
that.
their stuff done with them.
Right.
But yeah, that was pretty interesting. So halfway, or actually half work shaman. He says hope it airs at 12. I think he's talking about our show. I'm not quite sure. Mob Rule says, I think Pacific time is the earliest release time. I think that is the earliest release time for The Mandalorian
Yeah.
in the States. Yeah, and Maka also said, I got into Star Wars in 2020 and it has now consumed my life. I want nothing more to experience a Star Wars movie in theaters.
Yeah. Gee, there you go. Exactly. Right.
Well,
I mean,
Maka, you're in luck because
exactly.
Return of the Jedi is about to be released.
Yes.
I
Very
think
much looking forward to that.
what month is that being released?
April, I thought. That's the last thing I saw towards the end of April, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. As soon as the tickets go on sale, I gotta snag me some.
Yeah, for sure. I think I gotta go. I just got to see it on the big screen again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And of course, we got, I believe it was last year. All these years are running together. We got Rogue One in IMAX.
We did, which I enjoyed thoroughly, man. I don't think I don't remember seeing it in IMAX the first time around. Uh,
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is they take the box office receipts still after a re release and they add them to the original.
Yeah.
So now Rogue One is like in the top like 10,
Yeah,
I think,
I believe it.
films grossing for IMAX.
Yeah, I know
So,
they did pretty good actually on that re-release. I meant to go watch it more than once, but you know it's kind of crazy with life
yeah.
gets in the way. But I did see it luckily, but I did wanted to go watch it, you know, at least another time, but wasn't able to.
Do you know the answer to this? Is it true or just theory that Love and
Love
Thunder
and
was kind
Thunder.
of goofy because it was told from Korg's perspective?
See, it's
It
funny you
kind of
mentioned that
was,
because
right?
it
He
kind of
started it off like he
was
was telling a story to like some kids, right?
that. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was gonna say. I got that idea at the beginning of the movie. I was kind of lost in the middle about that, and then they bring yeah exactly the movie ends with his narration again. So I'm like, okay, did we just was this whole thing like from his perspective? Was it is did he tone it down, or like what happened? But yeah, I don't know. I think that middle portion needed to be maybe a little bit different.
Yeah.
And if that was the case, then make it pretty obvious that it's Korg, telling the whole thing, because
Yeah.
I don't feel like it was. Again, throughout the movie, like beginning and end, it's pretty obvious, but then we kind of lose it.
Yeah. Maka thinks if the theory is true, then it's kind of a genius movie. So I
Yeah,
agree. I mean, I didn't think I didn't have that much of a problem with it at the time, but then people started like
yeah,
nitpicking and
yeah. But like you said, unfortunately, this comes off of after
yeah,
Ragnarok, right? Which I
yeah,
mean,
that's a problem.
come on, yeah. I mean, that's one of the best standalone movies, right? Or single character movies, I guess. for the
Yeah.
MCU. Like it's just, I mean, it was genius back then. It still is today. And so, as usual, of course, people keep wanting for him to raise the bar, and it's kind of hard to be honest, because he pulled out all the stops on Ragnarok. So there's only
Yeah.
so much you can do after that. Um, I thought it was entertaining. I was never very knowledgeable about Gord, so a friend of mine was telling me, it's like, no, they did the character totally wrong and stuff. I was like, oh, like I believe you because you know more about him than I do, but like I was okay with it. Like I didn't really feel, you know, he was lacking, but apparently a lot of people did.
Yeah. So Mary Landon here on YouTube says, "I am looking for one Star Wars comic book. What do you recommend?" I'm guessing
Ah, Star
the
Wars
Kenobi
comic book.
comic book.
I would say. I mean, that's obvious. No, actually, you know which one I've been needing to catch up with? The Darth Vader ones.
That's what I was
I
gonna say too.
Yeah, the Darth Vader ones. I catch up with with the releases here and there about what's going on in the story, but I haven't actually read them for a few numbers now. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe more than I thought. Uh, but they did really going deep into the years between episode 3 and episode 4, right? So basically when Palpatine is putting him all throughout the trials, you see how he becomes the Vader that we know and fear, in Rogue One, which is you don't really think about it, but he is pretty different between episodes. um Even between the Kenobi and the Rogue One, right? He was just all about the Emperor, whereas maybe in Kenobi he was still kind of pursuing his own agenda. So I thought that was pretty interesting. What I really did like about that comic book is that they dove deep into the Sith alchemy stuff. Like him actually trying to mess with the dark side of the Force to, of course, bring back Padme or whoever he wanted for that matter. Which, if you remember episode 3, that was the whole like selling point, right, for him to join. Like
Yeah.
Palpatine was like, "Hey, now we'll figure this out. Don't worry." And then he's like, "Yeah, you know what? Like, it's actually pretty hard." So,
Yeah, the
um,
Vader run of comics I think is one of the most critically acclaimed,
yeah,
and it's got a really interesting story because I believe it's Anakin having like a nightmare, and there are some story aspects and points that almost make it allude to the fact that maybe Palpatine was Anakin's father. And I know
right.
there's a huge discussion at the time. This was like a couple years ago, I think.
There is,
And
yeah,
in some of
that
those
one,
panels, man,
yeah,
Anakin's walking around in this nightmare, and he has all his limbs, but the limbs that he's missing are colored differently,
yes,
and it's very very kind of beautiful and disturbing simultaneously.
yeah, I know,
And
yeah, I remember that panel when Palpatine is basically like surrounding Shmi, right?
yeah,
So people were thinking about, oh, was it Palpatine
yeah,
that created him? But I remember, at least back in the expanded universe, it was actually thought that Palpatine's master, right, Plagueis, was the one that had actually created Anakin.
that's
So,
another movie that needs to be greenlit. A
oh
Plagueis film,
man,
a Plagueis film starring
totally.
Tom Hiddleston as young Palpatine.
No,
That'd make $1 billion, maybe
yeah.
2 billion. I don't know. So seriously, Star Wars says, "Hello there, fellas."
Hey, what's going on, man? So he's gonna be on the high ground tomorrow.
Oh,
So he's
nice,
he's my guest, Canadian collector, super knowledgeable. So I'm looking forward to that.
awesome. So Mob Rules says, "I didn't have a problem with the movie. Needed more God Butcher though."
There you go.
Yeah, Christian Bell, he was probably the best acted part in that film.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's Christian Bell though. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a top tier actor, and I think he made like $10 or $20 million off that role.
Oh yeah.
So he got paid, man.
Nah, he's fine. He ain't
Yeah.
crying about our tweets.
So Darkwater asks, "Do you think the Clone Rebellion will happen in the Bad Batch, another show or a third season of the Bad Batch?"
Oh man. Bad Batch. Bad Batch. So I kind of wish this was it for Bad Batch, if I'm being honest. This season has not really moved the needle for me. If anything, it's just like cemented my feelings towards the show. Um, Bad Batch works better as supporting characters. Okay, like you give him a Jedi, you give him a Padawan on the run, and they do awesome, right? Like around that. But them as main characters, I don't know. I haven't been on board with it so far, and we're almost we're wrapping up season 2, so I don't think it's gonna turn me around. Um, so I think Bad Batch has maybe one more season, and I would like to see them start wrapping up. Either they join the rebellion, or they get killed off, saving some of the clones, like you're saying here. During the clone rebellion, something like that. Because I don't see it having much life left. Or okay, let me take that back. I hope they don't have 10 more seasons in them.
Yeah, I like the Bad Batch. I just don't think right now it's like a must-watch Star Wars
No,
viewing. Um,
I don't know. Like this is the first Star Wars show that I kind of feel that maybe it should have been condensed into less episodes. Um,
yeah,
because we're on episode, what is it, 12 going on?
something
Uh,
like that. Yeah,
the one that drops tonight, I think it's 12 or 13. I'm losing count. And we still got what, 4 left, something like that. I think we're up to 16 episodes this season. I don't remember, but the point is that we got plenty of episodes.
yeah,
But of the 11 that have aired, I want to say it's maybe 5 pretty good ones. Like that I'm
yeah,
like, okay, yeah, this feels like Star Wars. Like this feels like the story I want to know about. So if we could have gotten an 8
yeah,
episode season, but they were all would have been at that caliber, then I would have been like, what, like Bad Batch, like totally killed it this season. But as it
yeah,
stands, the average is kind of low, just because for every like cool episode or good episode, we got 2, maybe 3 that are just okay or just fillers. So that's my only like gripe with it. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't particularly think you're missing anything if you don't watch it, as it goes on, um, as opposed to like Mando, right? Because yeah, everybody's gonna talk about that.
yeah, yeah. I think it was a big mistake to have Mando and Bad Batch premiere on the same night. That's
Yeah,
To me that doesn't make a lot of business sense.
agreed.
Scheduling, they probably should have had it to where you get the season finale the week before chapter 17 episode
Yeah,
1 starts of the Mandalorian. That would have been perfect timing, and we would have gotten those Bad Batch episodes during Christmas time too.
yeah,
And to me, I
yeah.
think Christmas is synonymous with Star Wars, and we
Same
need
here, man.
Christmas stuff because we got the Force Awakens during Christmas, and all the sequel trilogy during Christmas,
Right,
and then we got the Mandalorian to drop around
right.
Christmas time. So yeah,
Agreed.
unfortunately, it the Bad Batch I think oscillates between like YA and adult stuff, and
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to find its audience when you kind of span that gap. But one can argue that Star Wars always spanned that gap. I
yeah.
mean,
I was gonna say,
George Lucas
there's
always said, yeah, that it's meant for 12-year-olds, but
yeah, yeah, and that might be the thing, right? Because Bad Batch is, as you remember, it was sort of sold to us as a continuation of Clone Wars. Uh, I feel more than a spin-off. So I think the expectations were pretty high, about that, right? Um, but seeing as how this is the dark times, right? Like you would think appropriately
yeah,
that the show is going to be darker, and it has been. That's the problem. Like you said, it does show us what it can do, and it does it very well, which is probably hurting itself, because when they don't show us that, right, they just give us the same like goofy episodes, or the problem of the week episodes. You're like, man, you just gave me an awesome episode that was mature, that was dark, that moved the story, and now you give me a pod racing episode, right? So I think it's kind of shooting itself like on the foot, so to say, because like I said, it's shown it has been really good. It has shown us what it
mhm,
can be, but it's not that, or at least not yet. And again, with the few episodes that we got left on the season, I don't know if it's gonna be enough to say this season was good overall. So,
yeah.
but we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll still have episodes left. So
Yeah, Mob Rules supplies an answer. I feel like the Clone Rebellion would be in the last season of the Bad Batch. I can't see
yeah,
it going on much longer.
yeah, same here.
Seriously, Star Wars says I miss seeing Star Wars in theaters. Return of the Jedi hit screens up here in Canada.
Hopefully, man. Because
Yeah. I think so. Return of the Jedi came out in 1983.
Mhm.
I was 2 years old. I'm not sure
Nice.
if my parents took me to when they went to go see it or not. I know they took me to go see E.T. I think that was my very first film
Nice.
experience, and they said I was running up and down the aisle
Oh, I
with a
bet.
pamper on in a bottle, and I have no recollection of that, of course. But I've seen Return of the Jedi in theaters a couple times now. This century, I did the marathon thing
Nice.
for before the Force Awakens,
Yeah.
and I saw
Oh
it
man.
then. And I think I want to say I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it when it was a special edition released in 1997.
Hmm.
That was the one I missed. Um, but I want to say there was another time I saw it. And usually at Celebration, they'll do screenings of the older films too. Especially this year, since it's 40th anniversary of
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, they're gonna have a big panel for that, and it's gonna be hosted by Ming Na Wen of all people.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely want to try and attend that because people will ask you, what is your favorite film, Star Wars film? And I usually revert back to Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
It's got Luke being Luke, the green saber, Jabba,
Yeah.
the final battle, the final reveal of Vader, confirming that he's the father, the Palpatine, lightning
Agreed.
dies for the first time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Bob Rule says my first Star Wars movie in theaters was a Clone Wars animated movie.
Oh, cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Over in what was that? 08?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that was an 08. Yeah. So if you're watching us here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, help out the podcast. Drop a comment, like, subscribe if you already haven't. Legacy of Nerd has shown up. He
Yeah.
says,
Hey, what's going
"Yo,"
on, man?
and we have a lot more comments here. Dark Water says, "Do you think the Clone Rebellion?" I think he actually asked that one already. I think it's a duplicate. One.
Yeah.
Mary Lanning says one where Luke Skywalker finds this stone and fell very sick afterwards. That comic number and title. Any
Uh,
idea what she's talking about?
finds this stone splinter of the mind's eye.
Possibly.
Although that
Yeah, that
was
was a novel.
a novel, but I think it was adapted, no, to a comic book. I
Possibly.
might be wrong. I might be wrong because that's a pretty old story, pretty old book from yeah, it was back from the 80s, no, if I remember correctly.
Uh,
Um, I'm not too sure. Stone felt very sick afterwards. Yeah, I'm not too sure to be honest with you. I know the overall stories, but in terms of number and title, I might be short on that.
yeah. So yeah, Darkwater says, sorry for reposting. I was just correcting grammar. It's all good, Darkwater.
That's all right, man.
And he also talks about Bad
Yes.
Batch. I was so happy to see the Zillow Beast return. I was literally yelling when I saw it. I've been waiting 10 years for that one. What's your thoughts on the Zillow Beast return?
So I was super excited because that was one of the promising, storylines that just never really went anywhere, right? Out of the Clone Wars. I mean, we saw the Silo Beast, what, season 2, I think? So, and then nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
for the following, what, 5 seasons, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was super excited to see it. I just hope that we go somewhere with that. I just hope that it's not oh yeah, they were doing experiments with it and that sucks. Move on. So
Yeah.
I hope that we get a little bit more, out of it. If we get to see them there, if we get to learn that the one that we saw this episode of the Bad Batch was actually a clone, I think that would be pretty crazy because it would show, the progression of the cloning program. Or something like that, something to the effects of oh, you know what, these guys were enhancing stormtroopers or experimenting on stormtroopers so that they could have Silo Beast like skin, right, or something like that. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
like to see a little bit more like what did they gain from capturing the Zillo Beast, right? Like what was the products?
Yeah. So Mob Rule says that the Beast made his return before Mace or Matt's repo.
There you go. But hey, there's still time, man. There's still time.
Yeah, that's such a huge like inside and outside joke now.
Yeah, exactly. I keep
It's
hearing about this season of Mandalorian. We will see what it seems like Order 66 once again, right, from the eyes of Grogu. And so they're saying, hey man, it's Mace that comes back. He actually saves him, and then he dies for real, like in the process, or something like that. But which, don't get me wrong, I am all for it. Like if they actually pull that off, my hat's off to them.
yeah, I don't think any theory so far for Mace Windu showing back up has been correct. I don't think anyone's really going
No.
to hit it on the head. But we all have that question still: who rescued Grogu? How
Yes,
many
exactly.
people rescued Grogu? I mean, what
That
were the
too, right? Could have been a
circumstances?
team effort, yeah.
Was Anakin chasing him down with the lightsaber?
Yeah. It's just so small, I can't hit him.
What would be really cool? I talked about this a couple podcasts ago, and I think Ted from Countdown to the Geekcast brought it up that maybe the younglings from that scene, maybe it's like a kind of like a retcon scene where Anakin didn't kill those kids after all, and those kids kind of maybe made it out, or maybe a certain amount of them make it out, and they go to Grogu and they do almost like a baton toss and hand them off as
There
they're
you go.
getting struck down by clones or Anakin.
Yeah.
And then maybe I've been saying this for years, man. I think Star Wars needs to get Ahmed Best back in Star Wars in some capacity. We all know
Yes.
that he was the host of that game show
Yeah,
that was on
which
YouTube.
didn't really, pan out too much
Yeah,
either. But
didn't pan out, but we also know that I believe his Jedi host from that game show is canon, I believe.
I
Why
thought so
not
actually.
have Ahmed Best say it, like not
Dude,
as Jar
right?
Jar, but as a Jedi, and have
Yes.
him be the person that say. I thought
Dude,
that would have been cool.
man, stop making a better show than what we're gonna get, right? Now you just got me riled up for that.
It's all there, man. The
Yeah,
stuff is right there. You just gotta execute and just
right.
do it. Give it to us. So
What's going on, Jaeger? Thanks for joining, man.
what's up, man? So yeah, the news today was a little bit shocking, and
Yeah.
it's a little worrisome and alarming, but
Yeah.
I mean Taika Waititi, I mean his kind of track record now. I mean it feels like on the outside looking in, I mean it feels like Taika's changed maybe a little bit. I mean
Right.
he's always had confidence, but it seems like he feels like he's on a level that where maybe he can do no wrong. I don't know.
I don't
That
know.
just that's the feeling I get. But I know he has a lot of fun on sets. I saw some behind the scenes stuff from Thor: Love and Thunder, and it seemed like a party. Every shot was just like
Yeah.
joking around, and it's like, man, how do you make a good movie when everyone's just like cutting it up and
Just goofing about. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still want to see what he can do with Star Wars, right?
yeah,
I just don't know about, oh, I'm gonna write, direct, star, and like edit my own Star Wars film, right? Like that's like we said, that's a lot of plates to juggle.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
so we will see. I mean, like I said, now I'm really looking forward to that announcement over in Celebration. Uh, I think that's gonna set the tone for the next, 5 to 10 years of where Star Wars goes.
Yeah, there's been reports that they have a plan for all this stuff,
Right.
but it almost seems like the Taika news today was kind of out of left field. Like it was like Taika was like, wait a minute, I am gonna do a Star Wars movie and I might star in it. It's
Right.
almost like
Yeah.
one of those deals, which is also worrisome.
Yeah.
But I mean, Taika's film is not gonna be in the Skywalker saga
Hmm.
portion. It's gonna be out there. So I'm totally fine with something like really weird, but I want it to be good, of course. if he can use that talent, that genius to make a really different Star Wars film, but make it be good, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
And
by all
that
means.
might spark a whole lot of other stuff that just kind of
Exactly.
happens off to the side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think the time is right to start, branching out like that, because I think, at least for now, I think the Skywalker saga,
yeah,
it's. I think let's just leave it as is for a little bit.
yeah,
Let's explore, what's out there.
yeah. Cole Canaletti says hello, hello there.
Hello there.
And Mob Rule says I would only want Mace back to have a showdown, maybe with Boba.
Yeah.
That whole kind of relationship, kind of interaction on screen between Mace, Boba, and maybe Luke Skywalker
Oh yeah.
on the same room. Like, what happens? It's like
Yeah.
that would be
Right.
an interesting
Absolutely.
exercise in writing right
I would
there.
definitely like to see that. Yeah. How they write themselves out of that corner.
Yeah, Darkwater says I would want Mace to come back and fight Vader. That would be an
Cool.
awesome fight.
Yeah. But there used to be a bunch of stories about some of the remaining Jedi, right? Trying to destroy Vader. I think. Well, I don't think it's canon anymore, but I remember about a Jedi enclave that just leaked the location of where they were gonna meet, right, to Vader, and they set a trap for him, and it was something like 8 or 9 Jedi, right, like all together to try to get him, and
Yeah.
they still failed, by the way. But there were a lot of stories, in the expanded universe where surviving Jedi would encounter Vader and try to put a stop to him, right? So yeah, I mean, could be. Just
Cole
never know.
makes a very excellent point here. Mace returning would be really exciting. Maybe revert Boba back to his vengeful self.
There you go.
That would really work, man. I know with the Book of Boba Fett, people were like, it's not the same Boba. But yeah, this could trigger Boba back
Yeah.
into that
This.
Mandalorian season 2 episode where he just kind of went off
Yeah.
on
Oh yeah,
stormtroopers. And I think that's
man.
what we were like really wanting.
For sure.
But
And
it
and
just
it's
went a
so
different
weird,
route.
right? Because you got the same formula, right? Like, you got the same people directing Book of Boba Fett, writers, cast members, and you're like, what happened? Like, this is not the same at all. Um,
Yeah, that's too logical, Cole. That
yeah,
makes too much
exactly.
sense,
That
man.
again, man. Stop writing a better Book of Boba Fett season 2 than what we're gonna get. So
It's the fans, man. It's all about the fans. I mean,
yeah,
just
seriously.
listen to the fans.
Yeah.
So Mary Lanning says on YouTube, "I want more Luke Skywalker. I need to see
Oh,
Mara Jade." I think we all want more
yeah.
Luke Skywalker. I think there's like 98% of the population that wants to see more Luke Skywalker.
Absolutely.
And going back to my conversation I was talking about on Discord about all the projects you can make. A Luke Skywalker film would be tremendous, and that wild rumor that came out about Luke, Han, and Leia
I saw
being
that.
in something, it's like, yeah, man, let's try and do that. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
billion right there.
I think at this point, so Luke Skywalker is like a nuclear bomb, right? In the sense that if you drop him into any of the shows, he's gonna blow everything away, right? Like, he will become the center of everything. So they do have to be careful to, one, not overuse it, two, not overshadow your main character, right, for whatever that show is.
No.
But if it's gonna be a movie about him, right? To me, that makes perfect sense because he's your main character, and you can surround him with the known characters, and that plays off differently. So you give the fans what they want, which is, again, more Luke Skywalker, but you don't necessarily derail your current projects or your current shows, like
Yeah.
Mandalorian, right? Because that season 2 finale was all about Luke Skywalker showed up. It wasn't about Din got the dark saber, right? Which, in theory, that should have been the wow. That should have been the main takeaway for
Yeah.
the season finale of Mandalorian specifically,
Mhm.
right? So that's what I'm trying to say. Don't get me wrong. I want to see Luke Skywalker as much as I possibly can in this lifetime. Uh, but again, if you think about it a little bit, deeper, they do have to be careful. Like, they do have to use him, I think, sparingly and smart, so that again, so that he doesn't like overtake every single show of this like Disney quote unquote timeline that they're trying to build, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he is very much the Deus Ex Machina
Yeah,
aspect of Star Wars right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
And like my whole like dream, my fantasy of Luke Skywalker popping back in is maybe in that climactic battle or in a super huge battle where it seems bleak for our heroes. We just see an X-wing fly over, and Luke just hops
Exactly.
out of it, and we just see green and black fall
Oh
into the
yeah,
middle of the thing,
I'm
and just have
ready.
them like clean up.
Yeah,
Almost a lot like I know we talked about Thor earlier tonight. Almost like the Thor scene with Rocket and Groot in Infinity War. You know, he just
oh
drops
yeah,
in and
yeah,
just
yeah.
clean.
There you go. Start
That'd be
taking out
awesome.
dudes. Yeah, I'm ready, man. But yeah,
Yeah,
and Mara Jade, beloved character from the Legends. In case people watching or listening to us don't know, Mara Jade used to be sort of kind of like what an Inquisitor is right now. She used to be force sensitive. She was an assassin that worked under Palpatine, right? Taking out like
mhm.
high value targets. She eventually gets sent out to take Luke out, right? Lo and behold, they end up falling for each other, and many years later, they're married and they actually have a son. And so yeah, but Mara on her own was pretty. First of all, she was super highly trained, right? Like, I mean, like I said, she was basically like a master assassin with the Force, which is again kind of crazy. So just on her own, she was very powerful. And I don't know if you guys know this, but we're actually getting a Mara Jade Black series coming out soon. So
Interesting.
yeah, that just kind of like steers the pot even more, right? You're like, ah, man,
Yeah.
like I don't know if it's just again just to make money, right, and capitalize on, oh, we got the rights for everything, so we can just print whatever figure we want, or
Yeah.
is it gonna lead to something else, right? Like, oh, is she coming back in the comic books, like in the animated something, right? So, but just FYI, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying that it's gonna lead up to anything, but it is coming. I have her on pre-order, so
The thing that I've always heard every single year is the fact that George Lucas never liked Mara Jade, and
right,
that's why she never was as prominent as fans would have liked her to been.
yeah,
But you think about it, I mean, a love interest to Luke. Um, I mean, she's a Jedi. She's the first, I think, redheaded character in the
yeah,
saga.
yeah, you're right,
Um, and her lightsaber's like a pinkish type
yeah,
color, right?
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it was almost like a yeah, it was like pink, maybe whatever it is between pink and purple. I'm not good with hues, but yeah, so something like that.
so my belief is that what Lucasfilm can do, since they're kind of lacking for ideas, it seems like in
Yeah,
films, they should start just a whole new line of films and have extended universe films, and that's where you could
dude,
pop in
seriously.
Mara Jade live action. You would, I think, you would actually bring back a certain amount of old school
Oh, for sure.
fans that
Yeah.
loved the books in the '90s, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um,
No, no, I agree. Again, you have this amazing, library of characters and stories already, available to you. So why not? I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time, right?
yeah,
Um, Again, yeah, you can still do your new stuff, your new continuity, whatever you want to call it. Uh, but why not have a place for these characters that have been beloved for 30 years or more at this point?
yeah,
Like it's proven that the fans like them, so why not make use of that?
yeah. You slap Star Wars on it, everyone's gonna go see it anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's a really big ask for those novels, the Thrawn trilogy as well.
Oh man, yeah,
But of course, you run into the whole kind of like, well, we're gonna do Thrawn probably in the shows and maybe a film. I don't know. So I
yeah,
don't know what kind of confusion that might cause people. But and I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, the whole confusion with the fans, because fans are smart. I think the younger generations are the younger the generation, the smarter they are to a certain point, I think. And the older generation, when they went to go watch Rogue One in theaters, they thought that Felicity Jones's character was Rey until it
Right.
finally clicked. I
You're
heard
right.
stories like that. And it's like, where is Finn?
Yeah.
Where's Chewie? What's
Exactly.
going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
And why
Yeah. Yeah.
wasn't there a crawl? It's like, well,
Yeah.
it's a little complicated, but Rogue One did a fantastic job at labeling planets. That was
Yes.
one thing I wish they would have
Oh
just
man.
kept.
Agreed.
Just keep it. But
Seriously. And then when Andor, that first episode, when they actually gave you the year, uh with respect to the Battle of Yavin, I thought that was just genius. I was like, finally, like
yeah,
it's just one of
yeah,
those things you're like, why isn't this standard?
yeah, that was super interesting to see.
Yeah.
Cole Canaletti says, haha. Dark Water on YouTube says the first half of the Book of Boba Fett was well written. The second half felt rushed and a bit off. I think there were inconsistencies, and I think that the disadvantage that the Book of Boba Fett had was the fan expectations
Yeah.
really kind of overrode what Jon Favreau's story that he was creating was going to be,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of a letdown every time we saw an episode. Really, I think the real big highlights, or the big highlight, were the 2 Mandalorian episodes,
Yeah. Exactly.
and seeing Luke again with an actual decent deep fake
Right.
running. And once I saw that episode with Luke with that deep fake, that told me it's like, yeah, we're ready for movies with deep fakes, man.
Yeah.
Just do it, man. And of course, we're getting Indiana Jones with the
Yeah.
Harrison Ford deep fake technology.
Yeah, we are.
And there was that rumor way back when the Book of Boba Fett was about to air that Harrison Ford was on set recording stuff, and apparently we were going to get a Harrison or a Han Solo appearance in the show that we never got, and we didn't even get a Bosk appearance, which was surprising.
No.
And I think everyone
No.
was hyped for all the Rogues Gallery of Bounty Hunters we saw
Oh,
in Empire
imagine.
Strikes
I mean,
Back.
yeah, exactly, man. Just, I mean, like, Dengar, obviously Bosk would have been, I think
Yeah,
Bosk would have been perfect sense, honestly. But yeah,
we saw a lot of
any of those
Trandoshans
guys.
walking around too.
We did. That's the thing, right? So I mean, like, just put a yellow jumpsuit on one of them, and like, seriously, go and Bosk. Uh, but yeah, oh man, it would have been insane, if one of those, 27 back the flashbacks that he had was with Han Solo, right? Imagine that would have been
Yeah,
kind of crazy.
yeah. Cole also says I didn't mind Book of Boba Fett. I haven't been as hyped as I was when Cad Bane showed up in a while.
Yeah, Cad Bane was pretty dope.
Yeah, the Cad Bane stuff was pretty good.
Yeah,
I thought the the hat criticism was kind of funny. His hat, the brim of his
the
hat was
brim of
too
his head
small.
was too small. Yeah, I know. I'm like, come on, guys, like, seriously.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing too, because Dave Filoni, and I think if I don't know, there's a certain amount of common sense in there, because I mean, you look at the animation style and then you see the live action
Right.
version of it, they don't really kind of match up. In the animation, there's a lot more angles and
Yeah, yeah,
exaggerations of features, so it's the proper interpretation of Cad Bane.
yeah. I think so
So
too. I mean, come on. He sounded great. He looked great. The character to me seemed right. Uh, right out of Clone Wars, right? I mean, his movements, his demeanor, all of that. I enjoyed it a lot. And
yeah,
then, of course, he touches on that unreleased, episodes for Clone Wars, where it was that arc when Cad Bane is training Boba Fett. So if you notice, when Cad Bane loses its hat, right, towards the end of the fight, he has that metal plate, right, that
yeah,
where supposedly in those episodes, Boba shot him in the head, right?
yeah,
And so he has that metal plate like right on his head. So I was like, oh man, like they even took care of that. So even though we never saw those episodes officially, I'm like, they sort of took him as canon. So yeah, I don't know. I was pretty pleased with it just to see him live action. But as fans, man, we got a nitpick. So
yeah. Mob Rule says I need to see Ahsoka, Luke, and Force Ghost Anakin in one scene. I'm really interested to see if they actually do something like that.
Right.
And they got Hayden Christensen, man.
They
He's
do.
on set.
They
He's
do.
filming a lot of stuff. He's going to Celebration. He's signing, photo opping, all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
I mean, Ahsoka's coming, in her own show. I wouldn't be surprised, actually. I don't know about Luke, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Force Ghost Anakin and Ahsoka, right? And depending on how crazy things get with the war between worlds, right?
Yeah,
We might see live Anakin, right?
that's a great
Uh,
point, man. Great
with
point.
current time Ahsoka. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I said, I don't know how much into the quantum realm they're gonna get into it, uh, but but yeah, I mean that war between worlds opens up all kinds of possibilities. So
And it's got to be
I
a factor because it's in the Ahsoka logo.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I think it's I'm hoping at least it's gonna be ingrained into the show, right? I mean, I think it's gonna be a pretty significant plot point. Um, but we'll see. Again, I don't know how much they want to get crazy, with it. So
Yeah, if they really want our minds to melt during Celebration, they'll show a great trailer of Ahsoka,
yes,
and our
yes.
minds will melt.
Oh
We will
yeah,
just like
I'm waiting
be
for it, man.
screaming
Yeah, dude, I'm ready.
and release it to the public as well. I think
Please.
there's this
Yeah,
thing where Lucasfilm kind of thinks that if you go to Celebration, you should have exclusivity. But I mean, if you go to Celebration, you're there with actual celebrities and the
yeah,
creators, and you see it on the big screen. No one else gets to. So I think that's the advantage, really. And I want other people to see it so we can talk about it and kind of share
exactly.
it. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll just make sure to get the bootleg copy from you. But,
I don't. So I've been to. This will be my 5th Celebration.
right.
And the previous ones, they've had people walking up and down
Yeah,
the aisles, like staring you down.
yeah, they really do.
And there
Yeah,
was this lady that was like assigned to our section, and she was like looking me in the eyes, and I'm like, "Do I look suspicious or what?"
yeah. I was
I
gonna
wasn't
say,
filming or anything,
I can smell fear.
but she was very dark side. So Darkwater says, "I'm pretty sure they kept Cad Bane alive because of the zoom and the beeping. I think his life support kept him alive. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
I
gonna
think
show
so too.
back up.
Yeah.
Yeah." Cole says, "Do you think the introduction of Mara Jade would redeem Luke for those who don't like the sequels?"
Um, I don't know, because then the question becomes, oh well, what happened to Mara Jade? By the time of the sequels, right? So
Yeah.
I I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know that there is a silver bullet to redeem, quote unquote, Luke, right, from the sequels.
Yeah.
I actually agree with a lot of the portrayal of Luke, in those movies. I just feel like we were cheated out of what was in between, right? Where we left off in Return of the Jedi, up to that
Which
point
is what
in
we're
this,
getting in the Mandalorian, hopefully.
exactly, until now, right? Like after the sequels have gone out. So if you sort of watch it in the chronological order, I think it makes a lot more sense. So um, I think the introduction of Mara Jade would please a lot of old school fans, again, for the expanded universe. In terms of Luke's, actual story, and where we know it sort of ends up, again with the sequels.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that it would actually help. I think it might actually convolute things a little bit more. Um, because then it becomes like, oh, where was she during Kylo Ren's training, all of that stuff, right? So you just kind of adding one more layer of questions.
Yeah. And Mobril says that didn't Cad have a droid that helped him out in the animated
Yeah.
shows? Makes sense. His droid would save him. And Cole answers yes.
Yes,
Total
Toto
360.
360.
Yeah, that was a
Voiced
cool
by,
looking droid.
yeah, voiced by Seth Green.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And Mobril says Bo wants to fight Mason season 2, but that come together to kill Cad Bane. Could be my theory.
There you go, man. If that's what happens, my hat's off to you for calling it, because I want that now.
Yeah, I wonder what Favreau's thinking is in regards to a season 2 of Book of Boba Fett. It feels like
Right.
we're gonna get one. We might get
I
that
think so.
announcement at Celebration.
I think
There's
so
gonna
too.
be a
Yeah.
Lucasfilm panel,
Yeah.
so hopefully that happens. Cole says, "Shoot, Mace lost his hand. perfect potential for a lightsaber attachment on a prosthetic hand, just as badass as Boba riding a Rancor.
Yeah, man. There. Why not, right?
Yeah, that's one thing we haven't seen yet, the prosthetic lightsaber hand. That'd be interesting.
No, we don't think. Well, no, I don't think we have.
So seriously, Star Wars says, I hope we get to see Mace return in Book of Boba Fett season
Yeah,
2.
man, that would be some redemption right there.
Yeah, Cole says, speaking of the unreleased arcs, there's a Clone Wars anniversary panel at Celebration, 15-year anniversary. I remember last time there was an anniversary panel. They announced the final season.
They did.
Yeah, I think that was at San Diego Comic-Con when they did that.
I think so.
Yeah,
you might be right.
Yeah, and seriously, Star Wars says, I think all the Trandoshans in Book of Boba are hinting at Bosk in season 2.
I really hope so, man. Because honestly, there's no reason why not to have him.
Yeah, I think about Jennifer Love Hewitt in I Know What You Did Last Summer, saying, "What are you waiting for? What are you?" It's
right?
Like, come on,
seriously.
Man.
Yeah, just it's all right there, man. Like you said, it's almost like you just gotta hit play.
It writes itself.
Seriously, man.
So Cole asks, "What are the odds they announce something crazy like fully animated unreleased arcs?"
You mean
are
for
there
Clone Wars?
More unreleased arc stuff for?
There are
Clone
a few.
Wars?
I don't know if like a season's worth. So there's a Boba Fett arc with Cat Bane. I know that. There was there's like snippets of episodes that got cut, like the stuff in Mortis. You know when Darth Revan showed up and that kind of stuff. They never made it to, but those are cut outs, right? So I don't know if that counts as unreleased. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Cole. I'm not entirely sure that they got enough to fill up, like a season's worth of stuff. They could always. I'll be honest with you. I'm perfectly fine with them just giving us the unfinished animation, right? Like just to see some of that stuff. So if they want to call it like, Clone Wars, the cutting floor or something like that, I'll take that. But I don't know that they're leaning any more into Clone Wars right now.
Yeah. And Cole says, I think Star Wars thrives when it's connecting the dots. Yes,
yeah,
I totally agree with you, Cole. Connective tissue, pulling stuff from animation, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. It's awesome, man, when they do that. And
absolutely.
A lot of people will complain, oh, it's fan service, or pointing out stuff that, oh, look at that thing. There's a way to do it. There's a way not to do it.
Agreed.
The way not to do it, I think, is the whole Rogue One, Dr. Evans and Ponda Baba scene. That was too much. That was too on the nose. You can't be doing that. That was the one like flaw, I think, in Rogue One.
Yeah.
In the final product there. And but having the Camtono, the ice cream maker, having the Ambin pulse rifle from the holiday special in The Mandalorian.
Yep.
All like just great stuff. R5D4 coming back.
Exactly.
And that's very much in the vein of George Lucas making C-3PO something Anakin built when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Bringing them back. It's like
right. Oh man, have you seen that meme? There's like it's that scene in episode 1 when young Anakin is about to turn on spare parts C-3PO that he has in his house, and he's like, oh, before I turn him on, let me let me update the software to forbid him to read Sith based on the Republic laws. It's like, oh my lord. Yeah.
That's
I
hilarious.
guess.
Yeah. So Darkwater on YouTube says, just remember that Filoni said he had plans for Barriss years ago, so I wonder if he will finally use her in the Ahsoka series. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Barry Sophia felt still had quite a story to tell. I know that they also hinted at adapting some of the stories for Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress, because Asajj, is another one that we don't know what happened to her in the animated show.
Film.
Yeah, exactly. So I think those would jam, perfectly into like a Star Wars story type of movie. We know that Quinlan made it out until the time of Kenobi, right? The Kenobi show. So there's 10 years right there worth of stories that you could tap. So yes, I agree. I think Barriss would have been I actually thought she was gonna come out as an inquisitor, eventually, but
Yeah.
that didn't happen. So yeah, I mean, there's still stories to be told right there.
Yeah, we were also thinking there might be a little bit of Barris stuff and maybe like a future season of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show,
Right.
possibly. Um, Order 66 stuff that we might get in the future, maybe
Right.
Barris stuff. But yeah. Mob Rules, another film idea. Need a Cal series or a cameo,
Yeah.
anything.
Anything. Yeah,
That's
man.
what I'm saying too. It's like, why do
Yeah.
you get an actor, a
Exactly.
capable actor, to be the lead in a video game
Yeah.
when you can utilize the same guy in a live action show or
Exactly.
film?
Yep.
It's like, can we get that announcement? I know, like
Yeah.
Jedi Survivor, Fallen Order. It's like that has a big following now. The
Oh
video
yeah.
game industry is bigger than the film industry now, but Star Wars films are like the bread and butter. That's what makes a lot of money. It's like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on, it's like right there. It's like,
I mean, we got BD1, right? Or okay, a BD type of droid, at least.
yeah,
in
yeah.
the Book of Boba Fett, or in Mandalorian too. Um, so I mean, come on, guys, don't, stop teasing us.
Cole says, I like the theory that she's the one who saved Grogu. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another kind of
Yeah.
maybe second tier popular theory.
Yeah. Hey, we'll find out here in what is it, 2 hours, almost, a little bit more.
In about 2 hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna show it in this episode
No, I don't think so either.
because
But
I think that would have leaked online
yeah.
heavily,
Oh yeah, they would have been
and
like,
everyone would have known before, and that
yeah.
would have been not great. But
Yeah, I've actually been doing okay on not hearing anything about
same
this
here,
this episode.
same
Yeah.
here. I have no idea what we're about to see
Yeah.
on the premiere tonight. So if I guess something right, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
The Sabersmith says Mando's finale made it to the live stream.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
What is
Mando's.
the?
Oh yeah, it's like hello and Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
Mando's finally made it to the live stream. Welcome, man. Welcome.
Welcome aboard. And Evan on the other side of the world says, "Good morning, guys. Good morning, Evan." He's another
Morning.
one of our awesome patrons.
That's cool.
Darkwater says, "Do you guys like Coyote Mundi? For some reason, I really like him. He's kind of like your friendly old grandpa."
Who, by the way, was about the only Jedi in the Order to be married. You know, uh,
That's
if
a
you remember.
nice tidbit there.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember that those like extra info we would get, on some of the characters on the in between the movies, episode 1 and 2, I think. If I remember correctly, his species was in the brink of extinction. So it was like a very, very, very special permission, or that he got from the Jedi Order to actually be married. So I always thought that was crazy, and I always thought nobody really touched up on that anymore. So I'm like, okay, do we not like that idea? But
How did he get permission? How did he get permission to break the rules? I mean,
that's what I'm saying, right? I'm like, okay, so I mean, so there are ways. Is that what you're telling me? So like, so like if humans were an endangered species, then Anakin and Padme would have been fine.
you got some type of weird pardon or something.
I
don't
guess
know.
so, man. I don't know, but
But yeah, I am a fan of Coyote Mundi. I like his character design, and
Yeah.
the guy that played him in, I believe, Attack of the Clones, maybe also in Revenge of the Sith, Silas Carson, he's going to be signing at Celebration. It's going to be
Nice.
cool to see him in person, because
Yeah, absolutely.
watching the beginning documentary for the Phantom Menace and seeing him behind the scenes interact. I know he was in some of the Nemoidian
Yes, that too.
animatronics, and his funny line is they're putting him in the animatronic, and they're telling him do some exaggerated dialogue so they could see if the mouth would move. And he was like, exaggerated dialogue, and then you could see the mouth, and like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then he turns to the camera and he goes, some people would pay an extraordinary amount of money for women to put them in something like this. I was like, yeah, he's a funny dude.
Yeah.
And yeah, Cole Canaletti on YouTube says, I'm more of a Plo Koon man myself.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
To me, it feels like there's like some type of relationship, like a friendship between Coyote and Plo
Yeah,
Koon. Um,
they were very
it,
prominent, in the
did
Jedi
they make like
Council.
an action figure pack of those two?
I'm trying to think. I don't know if you remember they had that Jedi Council releases. There was like 4 packs of 3, maybe 4 Jedi each to
Yeah,
complete the council. They come with the little seats, so once you get them all, you actually make the whole council.
right, right,
Like round
right.
table. I'm trying to remember if those two were packed together. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't remember. They might have been,
yeah. Thinking
but
back,
yeah.
like Kid Fisto, and I remember. I think there was a Jarl Poof set as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah.
Mob Rules says Clone Wars made me love Plo
Oh yeah.
Koon. Makes Order 66 hit harder.
Absolutely.
And of course, we all know with the Mandalorian, there's a Plo Koon tie-in because Dave Filoni was telling everyone on set that it was
Yeah.
Plo Koon who was a Jedi showing up at the
Yeah.
end of season 2 of the Mandalorian. And of course, we all know
Right.
it was Luke Skywalker. And Katie Sackhoff just did an interview who we're going to see a lot tonight, I think, prominently
Oh
in
yeah.
tonight's Mandalorian episode, where she said Dave Filoni explicitly told her Plo Koon is showing up to pick up the child. So she had no idea that Luke Skywalker was showing up. And
Yeah.
now when Katie Sackhoff does all these interviews about what was it like to work with Luke Skywalker, she's like, I didn't. He wasn't there. No one was there. There was
No,
a
it was
guy
there.
with dots on his face
Yeah.
that showed up, and we were just like, okay. Like there was no reaction, which was genius kind of in a way,
Yeah,
because
man.
all of them would be geeking out, you know?
Absolutely.
And they did close the set off. They had a minimal crew and they hid that secret perfectly. I don't think there was a single leak for Luke Skywalker in season 2
Nope.
anywhere.
Nope. Kind of
Everyone was
nuts.
shocked.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to the big kind of joke that, oh, is Mace Windu going to be in something? They might do another close set thing to have
Yeah,
Samuel
man.
L. Jackson
For
reappear.
sure.
So you never know. So Cole also on YouTube says, I really hope we get more Tales of the Jedi. We could even get Coyote
Yeah.
Mundi or something. I think we are going to get more Tales of the Jedi just
I
due to
think so
the
too.
success and the overall fan reaction to it.
Yeah.
Really
So
excellent, very short episodes.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, man, that thing was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Especially in terms of the story, right? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, the animation was dope, but
Animation
the
style.
stories was perfect. And Cole, I don't know if you heard that interview during last celebration last year. So the idea for Tales of the Jedi from Filoni actually came out from him hashing out writing out the story of how Plo Koon actually met Ahsoka, right? So we know that he's the one that found her, but we don't know anything before or after that. So he actually started writing that sort of like quote unquote short story, I guess, about it, and then that's how people in Lucasfilm got wind of it, and they're like, "Hey, we need to turn this into a show." And he was like, "Whoa!" It's like, "Okay, well, I need to write something better," and that's when he wrote sort of like that, baby Ahsoka type of thing. Um, but I mean, he still has those stories somewhere, so I'm hoping he puts them into season 2 because I still want to see first, like we were just talking about, what I like to see more of Plo Koon and that interaction with Ahsoka because they were very close in the Clone Wars. And yeah, definitely, I want to see Kiad Mundi's wife. Okay, that's all I want now. Like, please.
Oh man, what I would give to see Satine in live action, see that
Oh, dude,
flashback.
that was in my bucket list for the Kenobi show, right? I was like, just a flashback. I don't, she doesn't have to do anything more than, you know, come out of a hallway running with young Obi-Wan. That's it. I mean, I'll take that at this point. But yeah, yeah, I don't know.
That would break Star Wars Twitter right there.
Yes.
Oh man. You can only dream at this point.
Yeah.
Mob Rules on YouTube says tells the Jedi episode of the Grand Inquisitor turning would be nice. Yes,
Yeah.
that would be really cool.
Absolutely.
Dark Water says plot twist: Coyote Money's son was trained by Luke. Imagine that would be a fun random addition.
I'm down for that. The timelines kind of match up. Could be possible.
Yeah, I think that might work. So here's a popular theory here. The Sabersmith on YouTube says, I still think R2 saved rescued Grogu. I feel like he had some extra space in the mech of his.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Could be.
I mean, yeah, if you do like a poll of who rescued Grogu, I think
Yeah.
R2 would be towards the top.
Agreed.
I would love to see a shot inside of R2's gut of Grogu, like avoiding the gears and the arms
Yeah.
and stuff.
Exactly.
Just trying to like survive.
Yes.
Uh, P. McG says, "Do you think the Mandoverse will eventually lead to Snoke, the sample of Grogu?" Yes, I think that's the popular theory.
Yeah.
I think that's the popular assumption that Dr. Pershing, the cloner, was trying to obtain that blood to basically bring back Palpatine. And we've all heard it before at the very beginning of The Mandalorian that this will be leading up to the beginnings of the First Order in the sequel trilogy. So I think it's going to tie in. And with Andy
Right.
Serkis kind of being back in the family
Hey,
with
he's
Star
still.
Wars,
Yeah, I was gonna say he's still very much
he's
active.
right
So
there. And they could actually use his actual face, his real
yes.
image, as maybe like a test subject or something.
Oh,
And
imagine. Yeah, it'd be so cool.
yeah, it's The Mandalorian is like kind of like a redemption show for
Yeah.
Luke and maybe even Snoke now. Can
Yeah.
you imagine seeing live action Snoke?
Oh man, they're gonna be like, hey, we found this, used to be prisoner that can't swim. We're gonna inject him with midichlorians and see what happens. I'm just saying, man.
So I'm actually going to do a photo op and a signing with Andy Serkis in London.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
And I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna be like, "Hey, can you
Do
really
it.
not swim?"
Exactly.
He's just probably gonna laugh and be like,
Yeah.
"Let's take the damn picture."
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I mean, he's been in everything that I've loved for the past, like,
Yeah,
20 plus years. So yeah, I know.
yeah,
He's a freaking legend at this point.
yeah. I mean, what can you say about the man? It's incredible. When I'm a huge Peter Jackson Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings
Same.
fan, and watching those appendices, I used to watch them like every year,
Yeah.
multiple times, because it's
Yeah,
just
same here.
so much like awesome behind the scenes and all the craftsmanship that went into the suits and the armor design and just the care and just
Yes.
you could tell that people loved it. And of course the product was excellent. But there's a lot of interviews with Andy Serkis talking about early on, like he wasn't a big time actor. He had done some stuff in some Hollywood
Yeah.
films, but he was talking about how his agent wanted him to audition for a part in the Lord of the Rings, and I don't think he was too familiar with it. But then he started reading like through the book, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's so many great parts." And then he found out that he was going to audition for Gollum, and he was like, "Come on!" He's like, "There's so many other good parts in here. I don't want to play this creature." And then he started
Yeah.
reading into it, and he's like, oh my God, this is like so great." And then he came up with a whole like voice, and he
Yeah.
like mimicked his cat coughing up a hairball, and the rest is history, man. That
Yeah.
set him off. And then he was like an assistant director, I believe, on the Hobbit trilogy as well.
I think so. You're right. Yeah.
And of course, he was Ulysses Claw in
Yeah.
Avengers: Age of Ultron, and he appeared in the Black Panther film. And he also was Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies.
Killed it there too.
What else was he in? He was Gollum again, of course, in the
Yeah.
Hobbit. And he was the cook on the boat in King Kong as well.
Oh yeah. Good point.
Yeah, he was there as well. And
It's crazy.
yeah, and when he does the Gollum voice, it tears up his throat. And but everyone always asks him to do it, and it's
Yeah, of
like,
course.
gosh, man, he's getting up there in age after how many years now? It's 20 years now. I
Yeah.
think more than 20 years actually,
More.
since
Because I think
because
yeah,
he
the
shot it
first
in
one.
1999, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So
So yeah, it's
they came out. What was it? 2001.
1, 2, and 3. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So getting back to Star Wars here, Marvel says Grogu had a high-speed chase on a mouse droid out on the jet. That would be awesome.
Oh man, I'm sold.
Have Grogu surfing on a mouse
Yes.
droid.
Exactly.
I didn't even think of that. That's a good idea, Mob Rules. I like that.
Yeah. Sold.
So P. McG says Circus said he would play Snoke again and loved it. Yes. There
Yeah.
was an interview recently where Andy Serkis was asked about coming back to play Snoke, and he was like, yes. And there was also an interview where he said he was devastated when he found out that Snoke was going to die that early. Because I think he
I think
had
we
it in
all
his
were.
mind that he was going to be like the next Palpatine like figure. And
Yeah,
I think we all did.
yeah, I
It's
agree.
like, wow, yeah, I mean, you get Andy Serkis, who became a big name, and doing Snoke, which became like, felt like the big bad and the kind of Palpatine figure. But I do really wish that he continued on. So
Yeah, no kidding. Same here.
yeah. So Cole Kennedy says, I was at the panel when he told that story.
Hey, cool.
Nice. Shout out to us, or those guys. P McG says, thanks, I am. P McG, he's saying it's hyped if it's true. If Snoke does come back. The Sabersmith says, any predictions on who you think will end up with the dark saber? I think it's Grogu.
Yeah,
I think that's what happens. From all of Jon Favreau's comments lately in interviews, he's wanting the Mandalorian to just continue on in
oh yeah,
perpetuity and never end. And I'm all for that, man. It's like characters can grow up, be born, grow up, play their role, die in a battle, and then you have other characters surrounding them, and they can live
yeah.
longer, live shorter. But I don't think they'll ever kill off Grogu. I think he's untouchable.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
of course, we all know he can live for hundreds of years. So
Yep.
that's the gift that George Lucas set in stone there for that species. Mob Rule says Snoke looks like he can't swim.
True. I'll give you that.
Wearing the dress, that gold dress he wears, yeah, it's
Yeah, it doesn't seem very how do you call it?
conducive to swim.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like you're gonna just pull you down.
So Mary Lanning says, good night, everyone. I'm going to bed. Good night.
Good night.
Hopefully you can watch chapter 18 in the morning
Yep.
with all the other sane people. Cole Canaletti says, I actually really love the twist of Ben killing Snoke.
Yeah, I was okay with that too. It's just I
Yeah.
think the timing was just a little bit off, Um I actually kind of like that too, to be honest with you. It's just I felt like as we said before, I felt that it was just too soon, I kind of would have wished they would have gotten a little bit more into the character. Snoke, that is. Well, and Kylo for that matter. Um but yeah, I had no problem with him killing Snoke. Like I said, it's just I had a problem with it him doing it in the second movie of the trilogy. I think that was my main gripe, honestly.
What do you think of this? Maybe it all plays out the same way, where Kylo does the finger and the blade comes through, but then Snoke scurries away, kind of like General Grievous does.
Yeah,
And we
hey,
still keep him.
yeah, exactly right. And then we get a more pissed off slash cyborg, version of him on the third movie, or him on a bacta tank just hooked up like to all those weird chemicals and
Yeah.
stuff like Palpatine was, on the
The
Rise of
big vat
Skywalker.
of Snokes.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mobro says, good night. This episode is going to be great. I
Good
think we
night.
all agree.
Yeah.
See you in Patreon land. Darkwater says, do you think there will be a 4-hour cut of The Rise of Skywalker or a slight extension, some reshoots? Because I do remember a few years ago it was a popular idea. Not officially. There is
Right.
an animatic of Colin Trevorrow's script, The Duel of the Fates. And I think when you read it, when you find out about it, you're going to be like kicking yourself because it's like, that felt like a really great Star Wars film.
Yeah.
And in comparison to what we got in The Rise of Skywalker, seems
Right.
like maybe one of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lucasfilm is not gonna amend, I don't think, anything and
No.
do a special edition of anything unless
No, I don't think so. Not for a while, anyway.
the new president is just that kind of crazy and he's like, let's just do whatever the fans want and just
Right.
randomly does stuff. But I wouldn't bet on it though.
Yeah, I know.
Dark Water says it would make the movie finally good. It's with Star Wars films, I think when you're a major fan like we all are, you watch a Star Wars film, but then you're looking at it through a very particular lens.
Right.
And for the normal, just general audience that goes to see it, I think they actually kind of liked it,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like that fine line that you kind of tightrope, and it's difficult to properly rate things because when you live the Star Wars lives that we do, it's we're very critical, and we think certain things should be in there. They should do certain things, but I mean, it's a very much a first world problem.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And the Sabersmith says, "Do you guys think we will get or
Yeah,
we will see Boba Fett this season?" Yeah, I think that's kind of one of those no-brain things that we are
yeah. It's.
gonna get
I
Boba
think it's a
Fett,
pretty safe
and
bet.
yeah, just like what you mentioned earlier, General Kenobi with John Bernthal with the Punisher
Right.
showing up. It's like, yeah, it's probably gonna happen. So yeah. So yeah, that is the end of all the comments that we've gotten so far. Thank you so much for all the comments, guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
They were wonderful. Some great ideas. I love the mouse droid concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to see that. Dang it, man.
Yeah. Someone pointed out also in Return of the Jedi that there was like a huge mouse droid on the Death Star when Vader's walking off of his shuttle in the
Okay.
back with like big wheels, but you see it like far in the background.
Hmm.
I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so it is 12:08, and I think General Kenobi has stayed on more than he predicted he was going to stay on, and I know he wants to probably go to bed, like all the rest of the sane people out there.
That's all right, man. I'll be waking up early to catch up before hitting any sort of social media because yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
definitely.
sure I'm pretty sure this episode's gonna cause a stir.
Yeah. So, oh, Chris Simpson just jumped on. He
Hey, hey,
is on the other side of the world as well.
nice.
What's up, guys? And he's a great patron as well. Um, yeah, I think we're gonna take a break here, and then we will be back. I know we were gonna start the pod here right 9 minutes ago, but we started kind of early. Got too excited, but we'll be back online, and yeah, we'll talk about more Star Wars stuff. We'll probably have a few more guests, hopefully, if they stay awake
Yeah, right.
and are as crazy as me. So yeah, we will see you in a bit, and if you go to bed, may the force be with you,
Yeah, get some rest.
and we'll see you in a bit.
All right.